All right, we'll get started in a little bit. Just like getting settled here. Getting settled, finding my notes. This came out pretty cool. As a as a banner. Came up pretty cool. And yeah, we'll be continuing on building out the agent framework, the terminal UI agent framework, adding tool calling, polishing the last little pieces. I think it's taking quite a good shape. Yeah, Mike, the banners, I was surprised when it came out. Like, I think my prompt was like, make a brutalist and see rendering stream announcement landscape banner with a go for calling up a BBS. I don't know what it is. It's always like cut off on the left. So this one is pretty fun too, but it's like, I mean, it's like jank. And then this one, I was like, hell yeah. And then just like the follow-up prompt worked pretty well, which I'm glad for. Like the layout's nice, everything's nice about this. Might commission an artist to do a series of those. Actually, let me. Is there a way to? There's no way to favorite this shit, right? Gonna say like, cool banners. Oh my god. This is so bad. This is so bad. But yeah, let me put it back for a minute. Just like maybe some people will join. I've got my tea. It's seeping. I've been buying a lot of zines today, which is cool. But also it made me like start streaming late. But I guess support your local artists. That's what it's all about. All right. Well, actually, like kind of in the final steps of all this stuff I've been building over the last, excuse me, couple of weeks, really, like refactoring stuff. Basically since GPT-5 came out, because I found it to be so good at refactoring. So what is this? Oh, it's cursor agent. So let me. Oh, the fuck did I do? I'm annoyed though by the cursor agent in the terminal because I can't like copy paste and stuff. I had it do a little bit of. I had it crash on my like generative UI tool, which really was just like a placeholder. So I'm not. I'm not sure. It crashed when I tried it, so I've just asked Cursor Agent to fix it while I went to the Comic Fest, but I see if I can reproduce this crash. It doesn't. I'm not able to reproduce it. I don't know if it fixed it. So it didn't change anything here. So okay, make a command that reproduces the UI that led to the crash. It looks like I can't reproduce it with itself. And so what's cool here is this generative UI, the way it works, is actually very simple. It's like a terminal UI, generative UI, right? And the way it works is that you have the model generate some DSL, so like domain specific language that just like describes a little like kind of form. It's a very simple kind of UI right now, right? So you have the model actually generate something that looks like this, transaction details, and then type input description, type input key amount, with a bunch of attributes, key select, and then some select, and then like a confirm button. And so the thing that reproduces the crash, hopefully we're able to reproduce it, which is going to be go run command, and then this is going to be repro empty select. I don't know why oh my god, why the complete doesn't work. Repro empty select command, and then YAML mapping values not allowed in this context. The fuck? And the weird thing in like the cursor agent CLI, you can switch models once you started the conversation, which is like a little bit odd. Because I've been starting to switch between GPT-5 Nano and GPT-5 Low, just like comparing things. Which like switching models is maybe not the best idea in terms of like cost, right? Because you like are not able to reuse the cache. Sorry. So I'm not sure what was wrong here by quoting the name. Oh, it's because they had a column in the name. This stuff is so annoying. Repro empty select command. Okay, so that worked. And then repro missing options. Repro missing YAML. Alright, so it doesn't seem to crash. What's the difference between the two? It's like the missing options. And then the first one, however, I was able to tab select. No. How did I switch to continue? I don't know. I don't know. It's like arrows, filter. Now I can't do it. So there seems to be something weird going on with the selection on the selecting the first item, which might be worth investigating. Okay, it doesn't seem to crash. However, it seems that tab doesn't work when on the first select, and I was only able to unstick it with search. Maybe add some log file temp log. Yeah, there's something weird going on here. And I wonder if it logs more. Maybe add some log debug and to figure out what is going. I'm not even sure if that's like all that great. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much I should continue hacking on, so just see when it happens again. All right, so what did we, however, change is that if I do workspace manager status, which is my way of managing workspaces, then I'm going to see that there's one Pinocchio modified files and 2 files modified in boba-t, and then the rest is just like go-mod kind of stuff. So we're going to go into boba-t, since that is the first dependency. Look at the diff, and we're tracking the input blurred. So this kind of merges 2 features, one being the blurred input, and then I guess that's good enough. So we'll have to verify that this works. Art, lipstick, add support for blurring, unblurring the input. We're not going to lint just yet. And then we're going to go into Pinocchio, look at what the UI is, and the UI now wraps the save form update. I wonder if this approach of like having safety checks around the update is is like a good thing to do for the agent, because you want the core loop to kind of basically catch errors when tool calling and all of that. So that might be something to add. I'm going to note it to my, I've started like reusing my sketchbook quite a bit now, because GPT-5 gives me quite a bit of time to like think about things while I'm working, and so that frees up, like I have enough time to really make some good decisions, or I hope good decisions about the design overall, while GPT-5 is going, and I'm happy because usually GPT-5 just like comes up with the perfect solution. So I'm going to write down here for Pinocchio, or Geppetto in general, is, for example, add panic recovery around the inference, but even further around middleware, so that you are able to potentially disable, at least not crash, and allow you to save the state and do things like this. So that would be one thing. And then I had a bunch of ideas, but first we're going to fix all the small issues, and then we're going to do a big pull request orgy. Let's see if blurring the input field actually works. And so that is in that is happening in with color. That's happening in Pinocchio, which uses a new thing. And so write a long poem. And so when I start this, it should actually disable the input at the bottom, which it doesn't. And that means that the inference cycle of the way Pinocchio does the inference, which I actually don't even remember how it does that. So in Pinocchio, in the UI, how does it actually run the big inference loop at the top level? That's a very good question, actually. And this is going to be in commands, command.go, potentially. And we have run into writers, and we have run chat. And run chat creates an engine backend, and I think this is going to be in the engine backend. This is still kind of like a full mess here over here. Engine backend, and I think the engine backend is doing the running the inference here, right? And so running the inference should emit a message. So this should almost it should run the inference in a separate Go routine, I think. Then it has reduced history. This has been vibed out of control. It was also like a big boo-boo when I started, like humanly written. This part has always been like a little bit messy. Um, and this is something else that I wanted to manage with the turn structure, is that we should be able to register a set of, like, give external users the possibility of configuring how we turn one turn into the next. I think this is fine. The engine backend is good. So this is all in the UI. This is kind of a good, well-contained part. The thing is that this should return immediately after the run inference and return like this unblur event. And then further events will be emitted by this here. So I think this might be enough of a prompt to, maybe one thing we can do is like write a document on how the whole UI workflow, the UI flow of these, how the chat runner interacts with the UI and how can potentially unify both, what it's used by. And so we're going to use, I think, I use GPT-5 Nano to do the collection. Not sure. Research all the relevant files that use a chat runner and backend.go. And is there any documentation on the timeline control? Not yet, right? Like I have to consolidate chat and timeline as well. So let me write all of these things down. Consolidate boba t chat plus timeline. And then clean up Pinocchio UI. Basically, since GPT-5 is so good at like cleaning things up, I'm going to do a big pass, and hopefully I'll end up with something that's like less confused than what's there now. This part was always very, very confused, even when it was like full-on manual programming. And I still don't fully know how to organize it. So the first thing I'm going to do is just like research how this all works. And I think I might have already researched that previously. And might have, you know, like not. So this was adding the blur unblur messages and then designed for a message-driven UI model rendering of, okay, so that's a pretty good part. And how Pinocchio command manages to link 06 inference engine to the boba t chat and timeline widgets, chat model.go and timeline model.go. Timeline is I am interested in the structs at play and especially the flow of watermill events from the streaming completion all the way to bubble T messages like back and finished message, and how UI entity creation is injected into bubble T. Store your research in Pinocchio ttemp. Research about UI flow for Pinocchio commands. So this document hopefully will help me have like some kind of index of all the relevant files because it's going to be nano, so it's not going to be like the most crazy inference of the logic and the reasoning and all of that. I just want to collect a lot of file names and functions and things like that. So use file names and function names to refer to the different parts. And I'm going to have this run. And in the meantime, I had Manus build myself something pretty cool. And I hope that it works. And we're going to go check it out, which is I have so now really all these different pieces that I've built and accumulated over time are starting to like all fall into place now that I've refactored the API for my core LLM thing. So what I prompted this morning is like use my Go JavaScript module system and use uh-oh, which is my declarative DSL terminal UI thing, which I just showed earlier, and then my JavaScript REPL UI, and I said, just integrate it so that we can do deterministic UIs, declarative UIs in JavaScript. And Manus is always like a little bit like roulette. It's like, will it work? Will it not work? I don't know. I asked it to take screenshots. These screenshots look awesome. I hope that they're real. Because that's the thing, right? It's like very good at lying, but they seem real. This seems like an uh-oh thing. This seems like an uh-oh thing. I'm not fully sure about this one. So we'll see how it does. And to do that, we're going to go into a vibes repo. We're just going to pull rebase just to make sure we started. Yeah, see. And then we're going to create a workspace checkout, which is going to be Goja declarative uh-oh UI. Then we're going to go into that workspace. It's just a way for me to quickly set things up. Then I'm going to go and make a directory for today. And we're going to look at what we have in downloads. Unzip T. Downloads JS uh-oh, and that's look good enough. And then we're just gonna make dir report, move md JS uh-oh report. Then we're gonna remove the binary. Gonna add all of this. What is so big? It felt like something was big in here, but those all look all right. All right. Sparkles, add JS REPL declarative uh-oh UI. And what's in the README? Glow README. All right, so that's a nice README. How to start /REPL. And then you can execute a test simple. All right, well, we're going to try that. Go run command. Am I teaching? I don't know. I'm talking about what I do. So yeah, I hope that you gain some knowledge from it, but also I hope that I get insights for myself while building these things. So often I'm learning, but I hope that showing what I do is useful. Cool. So I can enter JavaScript code here, I guess. 1 + 2. This is kind of ugly. As an editor. I don't know where this comes from. I've never seen the REPL look like this, but all right, so we can load a file, right? /load examples test simple.js, and then it doesn't do anything after it returns, so that's problematic. All right, so that might be our first bug here. And then the other thing that it told me was that I could try running it right straight away, right? Test simple.js. And then after it finishes, it doesn't return. So that might be a problem. It created its own REPL model, and then logging to REPL log. See, it has starting bubble T program, and then it never exits, right? Is that the thing that it committed? No. So if I do this and then enter submit, nothing happens, which is not good. But then we have a log file now. So we are able to debug this. So that would be our first thing. But because we're doing this while it's doing the research here, make mermaid diagram. That's nice. And what we're actually going to do, let's look at the document that this has created to tell us about the UI flow. And you'll see it's mostly like Nano is not all that good at reasoning, right? That's why it's called Nano. But I'm using it to just like fill this file with a bunch of file names to change this. And so now we're going to switch to GPT-5 and we're going to say like, go over the document and actually flesh it out to a full report with architecture sections and control flow section and event flow section, explaining everything in detail for the intern starting tomorrow, add diagrams, use full paragraphs and bullet point lists, and maybe some terse pseudocode, and add package imports. All right, so we're going to run this. And in the other part here, we are going to start fixing this program, right? Because it would be really cool to have a REPL part work. So what are we going to do with this? Because I do want to extend it, right? Like I want to take this and then actually add JavaScript callbacks to potentially UI elements, like ideas like that. I'm not fully sure how I want to do it, but to have callbacks, I would have to. Currently, I just wrap this library called Huh by Charm Bracelet, and it doesn't really give me like a lot of capabilities into like adding stuff to it because it's just wrapping widgets. But that, that would be like the next step. Just make like composable UIs for myself to have these generative UIs in there. So let me see what we can do with this. So we're going to go to workspaces, vibes. REPL, that's the package. And I guess I will just, we can close this. We have the issue now that, what does our REPL log look like? Does it have the file names and the color? Okay. Look at REPL log that we ran simple test on, right? What was the name? Test simple JS on, and we never managed to return from the rendering. This is a project to do TUIs declaratively in JS, right? C readme.md. I wonder if I should leave the max mode on or not, because it's paying by the token anyway, so I think it just extends the context window. I'm not sure. All right, so it fleshed it out, right? And so now comes GPT-5's thinking part, which it didn't think all that much, but it already had like a lot of context. All right, this document maps the key pieces, backend interface, backend start, add a full paragraph to each section and subsection, not just bullet point lists. Yeah, this is a little bit too terse for me. It should give all the context, high level context necessary to understand what is going on. And in the meantime here, in my JS REPL, I'll add a headless mode, detect when there's no TTY. In this case, skip starting and immediately render. No need for non-TTY. If you need to run it, use tmux. And this guy's thinking as well, we're doing a research, and then the next part of the research is going to be figuring out how to make it possible to start an inference from Pinocchio's UI, which maps to the chat UI, and then send a blur. But I think this is starting to be pretty elaborate and intricate. Like there's so many moving parts that I think I'm just going to turn on GPT-5 and let it crunch and be like, look, there's the chat legacy part, there's the timeline, which is a new way of doing another legacy part that I was able to remove. And then there's this Pinocchio UI part, which is also was janky to start with and is also a little bit confusing. And I actually want a really clean API that allows Pinocchio to actually leverage the chat UI components. So Pinocchio is the application that runs the actual LLM inference. You can see it, like I've been using it for forever. And it kind of looks like this. Let me show you. So this is the version that I had before the refactor. And I can, so code Unix in this case is just a prompt that I can configure, right? So this is what is going to be sent to the LLM. So when I start it in chat mode, for example, it starts immediately in the chat mode and then starts filling this in, right? And then I can do, write a short hello world script. It's going to fill this out, and then I can browse in the history, and I can do things like, which are really useful, is like copy the selected source code, and then I end up having the selected source code in my clipboard, right? Like things like this are really useful, and they're like a little bit broken right now. Other things that are broken is like the blurring. However, what I can't easily do in the way this one is built before the big refactor, like tool calls are a pain in the butt, and I can't do like streaming events that are not just partial completions for text. I can't do custom widgets. I can't like easily add more stuff to it. So I've been refactoring all of this to make it easy to build custom agents with a custom UI, with like custom everything as part of an integrated framework. And so I think now is time where it's working reasonably well to start pulling all of these pieces together. We have something that's called like now a timeline. And so timeline, because I fundamentally changed the way chat conversations are managed, right? Like the current Pinocchio, a conversation is a sequence of messages with roles, like exactly a one-to-one mapping of what the LLM APIs pretty much are. The new context has sets of turns, and the turns is your interaction as a user, and your interaction as a user with a command that looks like a chatbot is not necessarily, or an agent is not necessarily an LLM inference. It could be many LLM inferences, it could be like no inference at all. And so as such, we now decouple an LLM inference from a turn. It's not fully decoupled, and didn't want to go too overboard in my abstraction. You still have LLM conversation per turn, but you can now modify it, right? So if like on the second turn, you can remove and add parts to the context. You can modify, you can run a summary or whatever, but it's all like non-destructive. And changing that abstraction was like quite a bit of madness, right? So we're gonna remove the cache. We're just gonna do some cleanup in all of this. We're gonna remove the renders because GPT-5 doesn't like fully removing things, which is it does love removing things, but then it leaves like a little post-it note, so like, yo, I've deleted stuff here. All right, cool. So it finished a document now, which hopefully has a little bit more code, not all too much, but no, this is nice. And so we're going to look at that. So the imports, that's fine. Architecture overview, wires a provider agnostic Geppetto to a bubble TUI via watermill events. The engines publish streaming events, stored partial final error to a watermill sync, where the events event router delivers to a UI handler. This handler turns engine events into boba timeline lifecycle messages that the bubble T program consumes and renders. The unit of inference is the turns, which aggregates ordered blocks. Yeah, GPT-5 is pretty good at understanding control flow stuff, right? The engine reads an input turn, performs inference, and returns an updated turn while also emitting streaming progress by isolating blah, blah. UI backend bridge. The engine backend provides the boba T backend interface and keeps lightweight states such as prior turns and cancellation. It also implements SD turn. Yeah, so this is all pretty nice. Chat runner, bootstrapping. Okay, so we're going to make a list of suggestions. Now create a second document in the same directory that details different approaches for refactoring this to make it more unified. What can be done about unifying chatrunner.go and command.go's UI? So that's one. Can we make the engine backend a nice reusable component? How can we modify the engine backend so that we can emit a blur input message immediately after starting the inference instead of having a T command that blocks until the inference is finished? How much of the chat events non-timeline messages are left in chat model.go? How can chat model.go be reorganized to offer a reusable chat timeline for agents? Does it even make sense to have it? I don't know. And yeah, they're never able to do mermaid diagrams as soon as you start adding file names into their prompt. It's really funny. Control flow, chat mode, UI first streaming. Yeah, this is a lot of steps, right? It's a lot of steps right now to hook up to to the inference engine as detailed into chat mode. So here I'm being pretty precise about my instructions, right? Because I just want to, this is basically me brainstorming what I want to do and give it, GPT-5 needs some pretty precise instructions because otherwise it will like not do much. It's very different than like Sonnet, which you can give 2 keywords and like kind of go YOLO, just like brainstorm stuff and build stuff. GPT-5, you have to be a little bit more directive, which is a good thing, which I really enjoy, but it's a change to how flippant I had become with my prompting. So we have the event flow, which is also like a little bit intricate. The event flow also is a bit intricate and convoluted from inference engine all the way to timeline entity updates. Okay, so for each of these points, brainstorm and make a suggestion for a few different designs. Don't go into full detail yet, but think hard to get there. This is the first time that I do like kind of ideation with GPT-5. So I'm curious. I don't want it to do a single fleshed out design, which it is pretty good at doing, I think. Instead, I wanted to think hard, to do a lot of reasoning in the background, but then just suggest a few like minimal kind of ideas to allow me to choose, right? But I know that these ideas will have a whole set of reasoning behind them, because I found GPT-5 to be really good at being like, okay, I'm going to do what you want. I'm going to think for like literally 10 minutes and then write 3 lines of code, but they're spread across the code base, and you're like, oh, for it to recognize that these 2 lines of code will solve the problem, it had to do a lot of mapping things together, and I found it to be like really good at that. And it's like, you're not seeing my fingers, but I'm doing all these like movements over here. So anyway, oh my god, this is even worse. I need to figure out some kind of like reliable setup here, because my poor IKEA streamer thing is just losing it. All right. So let's go back to our JS evaluator thing here. So what did GPT-5 do here? It look at REPL log. I'll scan the evaluator because it was like hanging on the bubble T command, right? Why is it so focused on the non-TTY? Oh, that was the first part. That's when I interrupted it. So see, it wrote like, it thought for quite a while, not all that long here. Auto submit. Okay, so it just wants to run the example by itself, right? No, so I think it was just like, I did submit the form, but maybe my inputs didn't make it. My key inputs didn't make it. What's the go run? Yeah, I did. I do press enter, and then the form disappears and I get a blank screen. So maybe there is something at the T program.run level. It's pretty weird. So this is doing brainstorming, and it did the brainstorming. It only took 33 seconds, so that's interesting. Unify orchestration in the chat runner and command, both files perform similar orchestration, creates an event router, creates an engine. So maybe it like actually left a duplication and didn't use chat runner at all. So I like that. But for A, who even uses chat session? I think only the Pinocchio command has been using the chat runner in the past and maybe still uses it. So that's the confusing part. The chat runner is like I had already like 3 locations where I was building a chat. So I pulled them together into like this chat runner, which is the chat runtime that it's proposing. And then as I started moving all this stuff into this very different UI framework, it like probably left one in place and I should have deleted it. And now we have 2 again. Design B, promote chat builder as the unified orchestrator. Okay, so this is actually for 1. Yeah, so this is promoting the chat builder as this is probably the thing I want to do. Make engine backend. Okay, so this is for 1A. No, this is for 1. Then for 1B, what CLI options would the chat builder need to take over? Annotate the section. Expand the section. Make engine backend a reusable component. Right now, hooking an engine to the UI involves several steps: router, sync, program handler, seeding. We can package this as a reusable chat app or simplify the sync handler story. High-level chat app, new app adds option. Provide a bubble tea sync. Bypass watermill for in-process UIs. Nope, definitely not. Pre-wired engine backend runner. And it returns the T program and the engine backend ready to gun. Yeah, so that's good. Nope, not that. Remove it. 2A. 2A is nice. So 2A and 2C. So this is maybe something 2A and 2C, and then the response to the 1 is something we could unify. I like this approach. This is pretty useful here. And they're pretty good proposals also. Yet stay terse, which with Sonnet has always been like a messy part where it just like brainstorms and then just like starts writing them out in full and then fills its own context and does like not very good suggestions. Also, it could just be that I'm like bad at prompting it. Engine backend starts currently returns a T command that blocks. Yeah. We want to blur the input, so non-blocking start, change start to spawn. Yeah, run inference in the Go routine, and return a T. This is what I would have done. Do not return backend finished. Instead, rely on step chat forward func. Yeah, so this is what I would have done. Batch 2 commands, blur now, run in background. Second command starts a Go routine and returns nil. So that could also be like an interesting thing to just like have a command that's called run inference. Batch them and then have this in the yeah, the first one, this is definitely the con that I was concerned about, is that, well, now you have to remember to send like the backend finish. I like the B quite a bit. I like the B quite a bit. Okay, so that's good. We'll remember that. What non-timeline messages? Okay, so this is 3. Keep 3B. Discard 3A and 3C. Flesh out pseudocode for 3B. Okay, what non-timeline messages remain in chat model? So we have the legacy non-timeline. So for remove legacy stream messages, remove all backend timeline plus backend finished message, delete handling for stream message. Yeah, so auto translate, no, design A for a list what it would take to remove them entirely. Reorganize model.go to offer reusable. Jesus, I asked a lot of things. Oh, this is great. I really like this. Because this is some real thinking. It's also thinking I've been doing on my sketchbook quite a bit already. And I think this is like the leftover engineering with LLMs and GPT-5 in particular, which is able to do these like really widespread, big code base things. So this is 3 repos, right? This is across 3 repos that are all fairly intricate and like also old. They're being written in the very early days of LLMs, so a lot by hand. I didn't know which abstraction I wanted to use. I've like undone a really serious kind of over-engineered abstraction. Like there's like a lot playing in. This is one of the more gnarly refactors that is purely unrelated to slop vibe coding. This is like just a really tricky refactor, just like in the old days. Reorganize model at Go to offer reusable chat timeline. So I don't even understand design A. Provide a constructor that returns. I don't think it understood really what 5 meant. So 5 will like, we'll have to think about this. And then simplify event time, flow time end to end. So yeah, the timeline component. So 5, if I separate the input message from the timeline, how much is actually left in the chat model? That's its main job, right? I'm not fully sure. What would it take? Nah, I think that's enough. Expand the section. It looks like, according to 5D, the main job of the chat model is to handle timeline selection and the blurring of the input field. If we split the moving selecting to a timeline model to manage a sequence of UI entities, what would be left? I don't know. This is like brainstorming. I don't know if this is good prompting for GPT-5. We'll see. Simplify event flow end to end. I think this is we don't want a bubble T-sync. I think we can just remove 6 altogether. Remove 6 entirely. Remove 6 entirely. Remove 6 to 8 entirely. All right. In the meantime, let's go back to our evaluator, which has finished. Let us kill this dude. Okay, so let's go look at this. Because I think now it probably had enough to catch it. It's also interesting that it used tmux right away. So I think the cursor memories are working pretty well, for me at least. So it used the tmux, it interacted with it. Uh, did it send keys? It did, right? It didn't. Not yet. Killed the session, new session, entered it. What's the change that it did, the first change? So here it changed. Oh, see, it did send keys. Uh-oh, enter. Okay, I didn't see that. So, okay, so now all our changes are grouped. This is when it added the auto submit. What is this? Any form, half form. No alt screen. Okay. So here, what did it add here? Auto submit again, and then this is probably the fix. Run the form in a bubble T program. So before it would just like T new program and then run it. And now, so all the auto submit we can just like remove. And then prefer running half form directly, otherwise fall back to bubble T program. And so the alt screen is what was causing the blank screen issues. Interesting. I reproduced the behavior and saw the form exit without printing result when using the bubble T program with the alt screen. I changed the flow to run her form directly and removed alt screen usage, verified in tmux. So I don't fully understand the alt screen usage. We're at 17%. Just going to test that the fix actually works also. So go run .command test simple, test user, and then execution result finished. That's cool. And then if we just do go run and then load example test simple.js, we get failed. This REPL is like not working well, huh? Load examples test simple.js. Yeah, this is not perfect, but we'll leave it at that for now. So what we're going to do is remove auto submit. That makes no sense. I don't need to tell that. Explain the alt screen thing, and is it maybe due to the fact that the REPL also does that? Are we using also, is the setup currently running a new program, or are we using the existing UI when doing either REPL or doing /load in the REPL? Let's see. All right, so this refactored, updated our whole thinking thing. It only thought for like 19 seconds, which is interesting. So what is the thinking process like? I'm thinking about why someone would ask who even uses chat session. And then updated 02 refactoring. So what good of a job did it do? Expanded one with concrete usage. Why did it add that? Oh, I think I probably need to reload this. Accept. Scan results suggest chat session is primarily a general orchestrator that mirrors the CLI path but is not directly invoked from command.go. Okay, so they're nearly identical. Uh-huh. Okay, so 1b, how could one do the auto submit without having to pass it to the chat builder? So trigger from outside, trigger the first instance. Also 1b, what would it take to hey Roy, I enjoy vibe coding. This is definitely not vibe coding right now. But yeah, I enjoy it a lot. And actually, I actually delegate it to Manus, and I call it like vibe delegating now. Is I have an idea, I put it into Manus, I give it a couple of frameworks that I use so that I can reuse the output, and then I just let it go and hope that something cool comes out. I really like that. Like I don't even look at the implementation until it's like kind of working, and then I don't even do the testing of the working. I'm just like, okay, it tells me it's done. Let's figure out if it's remotely within what I wanted, and then work with that. So, however, yeah, so what kind of internship do you want? I probably can't help you. I probably can't help you, but maybe I have a little bit more details or questions. I don't know if I can help you at all. I'm not the most career-oriented person, for better or for worse. Keep section 2, but removed 2b. Okay. So I don't think we want 3c either. Okay, so 1b plus 2. Design out now a clean API of what a chat session chat builder would look like to be both used by command.go and also be a reusable way of quickly adding chat functionality to a existing bubble tea program. Show some pseudocode of what using it would look like. Okay, so that's taking shape. Immediate blur on start. So when you do start, immediate blurs, that's cool. And then run command. That's, I like that a lot. Okay, so for 3, so 2 plus 3, what would integrating step chat forward func with the chat session look like? It has always felt like an odd side function. Remove legacy non-timeline stream messages. So to fully remove, the following steps are required. Ensure all production backends, engine backend, and sample fake backends emit only timeline lifecycle messages and or go through step forward func. Update any fake backend to use timeline messages. Delete handling branches that switch on stream. Update docs. Grab the repos. So this is cool. Reorganize model.go into reusable chat and timeline agents. If we separate the input widget from the timeline, the chat model's remaining responsibilities become clear. The primary job are maintaining overall UI state, streaming versus input, orchestrating timeline selection and navigation, and bridging backend start cancel to state transition. Much of the message rendering is already delegated to timeline controller and entity models. The chat model currently owns a text area model, key maps, and blur focus transitions. If the input is split into the separate components, the chat model would expose small control messages, blur, replace input text message, but not own the widget. Yeah, I like that. I like that. So we're not going to tackle that right now. Like, there's a lot to refactor here, right? And then, okay, cool. So we're going to flesh it out with these couple of more questions, and then that gives us a really cool refactoring document. Okay, I'll remove the auto submit logic, so that's cool. It deleted the test simple auto. See, like GPT-5 is really good at cleaning up after itself, which is great. I mean, probably Sonnet would have done reasonably well here, but I'm a little bit skeptical that it would have. Removed auto submit. Alt screen switches to a separate terminal buffer. If a program exits without restoring properly, you can see a blank screen, or you might miss input. Output also nested alt screens. REPL using alt screen when launching another alt screen cause confusing transitions and disappearing UIs. I removed T with alt screen in both the REPL and the form runner. This keeps everything in the main buffer so you can see log results after exit. You can re-enable alt screen later if desired, but avoid double alt screen. Okay. Is this related to the REPL, also using alt screen? Yes. Previously, both the REPL and the form runner created T program when the form. I'm unclear about this. Can't the REPL, when running a UI, avoid creating a new program and just reuse the existing one to dispatch incoming messages? So have some sort of way for the JS to signal that a new model has been created. So these are, I know my architecture reasonably well, so I'm able to ask these kinds of questions here. A lot of it comes from, I guess, ultimately drawing a lot. I haven't drawn much about the JavaScript stuff, which is why maybe all of this is so confusing as well. All right, but let me go back here. Cool, yeah, Go is I love Go. It's just like a very, I always get shit done and I never really get frustrated. So that, to me, as bare bones it might be or whatever, is great, and like LLMs do very well with it. Yeah, OOP is interesting, right? And that was like the biggest thing that it took a while for me to realize coming from C++. Like I started doing Go after having been a C++ programmer for like 10 years, was to realize that interfaces should be built at the site of usage, right? Like be much more in this kind of like semi-duck typing, and then dealing with the when I started Go, there weren't generics yet, and I was heavily used to generics from C++, to be more comfortable with having interface curly braces, right? Like the any type, and realizing that casting and switching on the casting is like a fairly idiomatic Go pattern. One thing I realized very early, though, because I read the Go compiler code when I started, is that channels are evil, right? Like channels are very easy to make concurrency errors with, as much as like people want to make it seem simple, they are pretty nasty and like kind of confusing um, data structures. If you don't have like the best book I found about Go that was really taught me a lot. So there's two things that are really really nice to read, and depending on where you're at in your because I assume you're a student if you asked for internships. Um, but so depending on where you are in your studies, this might be like a little bit outside of your comfort zone, or or maybe not. Um, but Facebook has published a bunch of papers. I think no, let me see. Papers papers published about common concurrency and memory errors with Go. I think it was from Facebook or maybe Uber. Um, and there might be more recent ones. This was probably 2021, 2020, 2021. It's like during the pandemic. I read them during the pandemic. They were very pragmatic, code-oriented papers. So there were like a bunch of papers that really like explored the way you can shoot yourself in the foot with Go. Yeah, so Uber engineering blog, data race patterns with Go, that was a great one. And then a study of real-world data races with Go, which might be the same package. And then unveiling and, okay, interesting. So it's Uber again. Concurrency bugs. I remember there being another paper in the same vein as the Uber one. So data race patterns in Go, really good to know. And I should probably reread it as well. So actually, let's, since we're at it, we can do a little bit of like how to learn with ChatGPT since you're a student. This is not the one I was thinking of. So, but it looks similar in vein. So, good job, ChatGPT. No. Uber, a study of real-world data races. It didn't think really hard, right? Racer D? No, it was about concurrency. It was, oh, there, understanding real-world concurrency bugs. That was the one. Automated dynamic concurrency of blah, blah, static race detection. I think this one's great too. ResearchGate. Jesus, for such an AI-driven thing. Do I still have my credentials here? ACM. Yeah, I do. Nice. So this one's really nice. I mean, you can find it on LibGen if you don't have ACM access. If you're a student, get your ACM access. It's great. You get like all the Safari books, ACM Learning Portal. I mean, I don't know what their offering is right now because I haven't used it all that much. But the Learning Center, yeah, right. You get O'Reilly, you get Percipio, and you get Pluralsight. And I think for students it's free. ACM membership students. Membership options. Student membership is $20 a year. So that's, or it's $40 a year with the digital library. So if you can afford that, I highly recommend. If you're a professional and you want the library, it's $200 a year. Since this is like the closest we have to like a professional organization as computer engineers, Um, and we have all these like labor issues coming up. Actually, this is also something I should reflect. ACM's takes on labor issues due to AI taking over programming. Search and think hard. All right, this one's amazing. Um, this one's great. Study of real world data races, data race patterns, and then I think I read this one as well. I think this one's also in a similar vein, but then this one's great too. And it was, oh, it's like, look, I live in Providence. This one was great too, because it just like is a very pragmatic, like, oh, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, with like code examples, and um, can highly recommend. And then there's this book like 100 Go Mistakes, which is in the same vein. So it's funny, they're all about mistakes, but they teach you good Go, and then um, there's also just like a lot of Go code to be read out there, and because it's so consistent in style, it will teach you a lot about patterns. So this one's great. Really, really recommend it. I don't know. I hope that helps. Um, since I was saying like, oh, I want to learn about this stuff, since we're already here, we might as well give it the paper, study of real world data races in Goland, right? So I'm gonna, to make work a little bit easier, I'm just gonna give it, I don't know if it's gonna be able to download the PDF and analyze it and then create a course outline for studying this paper. Use, and so I did some research this morning about how to create friction for learning. Shit. So when you learn, you want to create productive friction, right? So I actually have my chat from this morning. And because learning with GPT is really something that's dear to my heart. And I need to get better at it. And also I want to just build an agent for it. And so one of these things was like, oh, doing pre-testing is pretty great. But there's, right, like the friction. One thing that's like very interesting here is that to have good friction, you need to remove excessive cognitive load and really focus on having just enough friction that you learn something. And so when you do computer stuff, there's a lot of cognitive load when you start a new thing. It's like new tools, new errors, new APIs. All of that stuff kind of stands in the way of focusing on maybe the more fundamental things. And then, you know, later on you can figure out how to set up a new project. Like no one cares about that. But if you need to do that before you can even get a Hello World going, that's friction that's excessive. And that's exactly the friction that actually LLMs allow you to take away. Yeah, you're welcome. Like I love Go. I love sharing like the stuff I learned on my journey and that I'm still learning, right? Like I'm every day I find some new stuff, and I keep reading other people's source code is amazing, especially with LLMs. You can quickly explore big code bases, right? Like big code bases are hard to get into because there's so much scaffolding around things, right? And to get to the core of what a certain program does, you actually have to like cut through a lot of the chaff. And LLMs allow you to do that. You're like, oh, how does XYZ work in this code base? And you can just go to, you know, what's an interesting Go program we could look at? Say Zerolog, which is my logging library, and I should learn more about it. So you can go to the GitHub, you replace GitHub with DeepWiki, and then you can literally start looking at these guys and start exploring the code base, and it will link you to the right code. And so you are able to quickly zoom in to the right part of the code and just like kind of learn stuff, right? So really, really recommend just being like, and be ambitious, right? Like be like, I'm going to look at Kubernetes, like, you know, zero fear. What's the worst that can happen? You're like, this is like a little bit too annoying. But literally here, you can be like, right? Like one of the things that I find hard to do actually, as someone using LLMs, is to remember that you can just ask it things, right? So you could say like, I am a student in CS in second year. I don't know. I'm making stuff up, right? That is just learning Go. I want to learn from existing big code bases, but it's overwhelming. Um, where should I start? And then you can, it will like make up something, which, it's probably going to be semi-useful. Um, maybe not, but then you're like, I'll go explore on my own. You can continue asking questions, right? And understanding a project structure is pretty good, right? And so you could say like, okay, make a outline on what to look for in the client Go examples, right? And so that way you can, reading existing code is really like I think not only is it fun, but the best way to like build up confidence around not only what is going to be your job, but also just like building big stuff, right? And or seeing how experienced people build small things. So there's a lot of scaffolding. Go is a pretty verbose language, right? But then here you can ask some pretty interesting things. So let's take another example, say Nginx, right? And if you look for Nginx on GitHub, so let's imagine we have like a round robin load scheduler, right? Like, and so that somewhere in Nginx, because it has to be fast, so it has to be a small amount of code. Somewhere in Nginx, there's going to be a line that does the round robin, right? That goes from one server to the next with a +1. It has to be really fast. It's probably just 1 or 2 lines of code. But why the heck is Nginx so big, right? And so that's literally a question you can ask. You'd be like, man, I thought that a load balancing round robin scheduler would be simple, right? Like I thought that a round robin load balancing scheduler as Nginx would use it is very simple. Why is there so much code in here? Like you can literally just ask the most ridiculous question. I keep having to remind myself that like, man, you can just ask all these questions that pop into your head and that you've been like so used to like not asking. Man, it found it immediately. I hate LLMs. It found the right spot immediately. I saw it because this is it. I mean, it's called like HTTP upstream round robin, so maybe it's not that crazy. But these are the lines. These are exactly the lines that do the round robin. Because I keep using Nginx as an example. Say like, look, inside all these thousands and thousands of lines of code, there's going to be like 10 lines that do the round robin. And here, it's a little bit more complicated because it does weighted round robin, but it's like it's not that much either, right? And it has like a ceiling check. And those are the signs of like, okay, why is it a little bit more complicated than I thought? Why is it like 30 lines and not 2? You're like, well, because they keep all these little details you have to handle, right? Like the fact that there's failure. Most of this is failure code. You check if the peer has maybe not, right? Like this is error handling code at the end of the day. And being exposed to this like real world error handling code, I think teaches you a lot. At least it did for me. And then you could say like, while round robin conceptually is simple, Nginx implementation. So I didn't understand that I was actually, no, why is the code base so big? And actually what it said here is pretty interesting too. It's like, oh, what are all the features that it added to this basic algorithm that I probably saw in my slides, right? Like you probably have a lecture somewhere, lecture slides round robin scheduler, like in a networking class or something like that. And right? Like this is exactly the kind of stuff you would do in computer science courses, where you would you would make like a presentation about round robin and how it works. And this is all good, but it doesn't really tell you about like, okay, well, what does that look like in the real world, right? It's like, this is entirely about the algorithm. It's really fun. It's like a really fun puzzle, but it doesn't tell you like, oh, how do I implement this, right? And then, however, if you go here, not only will it take you quite a bit of time to find this, and this is very clear code, but you'll be confronted to a lot of this. And so if you like even want to test it out, you're like, how the heck do I get this code to run in my debugger? I actually want to see what it looks like in real life. That's also really, really hard. If you're like new, you're like, how do I build this? How do I set up a debugger? How do I, like a lot of like friction to just, you actually just want to see, well, what does N do in real life? Like, what happens if I have two peers and one of these peers is down? I wanna have a look at, what do all of these things look like? How does it really behave? And so you can just ask that these days, right? So the one thing I'm going to ask is like, why is the code base so big? Because it will go into all the things that make up like a professional battle-tested code base, which is like config files, config options, error handling, logging, configuration. All of these things are usually make up most of a code base, and it makes entry really hard, right? Like, you think that if you want to read a code base, you open the file main.go, and then you start from here. From there, that's like probably the worst location to start from, because you'll be confronted to all the frameworks used to like set up the program. What you want to do when you read like other people's code is start at the deepest level you can and then go out slightly, step by step. So see, the reason it's so big, it has like a core system for memory management, configuration parsing, logging, cross-platform compatibility. That usually makes up like a significant amount of all these lines of code. And then, right, like you have all these like additional features that you might want to add. And so I really recommend DeepWiki to just like go into anything on GitHub that interests you and just be like, hey, teach me, explain. I want to ask questions. I want to set it up. How would I go about setting breakpoints, debugging the round robin algorithm? I want to learn how it behaves under production. I don't know. And here it can probably give you like a fairly good step-by-step with some more or less hallucinations on how to set up debug logging, debug breakpointing, all of these, like what configurations to start with. So all of these things are pretty useful, and are questions that you can ask, right? Like set up GDB. Yeah, I think this is probably fairly correct. Yeah, and it will give you things like this. Anyway, I hope that this gave you some insight. Going back to the friction part is like going back to the concurrencies, download PDF and analyze it. Ask for pre-testing questions up front, and then 4 questions at the end for recall. So I really like when having ChatGPT analyze a material, and then I think you never heard about it. I think just because this is hard, like it's such a new tool that no one really knows about it. And then also it's just like, it's not easy, I think. And I love learning, and I spent so much time with LLMs and like just like started finding all these ideas and like, well, how can you use something that's like fundamentally unreliable? And they used, when I started doing these things, they were like really unreliable. So I couldn't ask them questions, because usually the answer would be wrong, which is actually a good way to learn as well. It's like, oh, like let's try to figure out if the LLM is correct is actually a really good way to get to know the material. And that's kind of what the pre-testing questions here do as well. It doesn't matter if you answer them wrong. Like probably you don't have any way of answering them because you haven't learned the material yet. So it doesn't really matter that you answer them wrong. It kind of primes your understanding of the question so that you can get out of the lecture what will allow you to correct what you said, if that makes sense. And so that was my standard approach. It's like, well, if the LLM is not reliable, well, I can have it ask questions which per definition don't need to be reliable. It's just maybe they're not that helpful, but usually it's fairly easy to make up helpful questions that then make me think really hard and allow me to browse the material better. But now that LLMs are pretty good at actually making sense of stuff, you can do this, which is, man, this was fast. So what runtime tool does Go use for dynamic race condition in this study? I have literally no idea, and this is maybe not the best pre-testing question either. In the context of Go concurrency, what does capture by reference in the closure lead to? See, I don't know that. Also, lead to is like a little bit weird. This could be like a multiple choice. Pre-test, make multiple choice for 1 and 2. Pretest question. What runtime tool does Go use for dynamic race condition in this study? I think it's going to be thread sanitizer. And then, yeah, okay. So I should have told it, don't answer. And then, so in the pretest, in the context of Go concurrency, what does capture by reference in the closure often lead to? So the cool thing is you can ask the LLM for hints when you're like stuck or so, right? So what does capture by reference in the closure often lead to? Go routine leaks, data races, and memory leaks, I think. So it's going to be B and C. Correct. Not the typical outcome here. References stay alive, but the problem is race conditions. Oh, wait, well, just B. And now we can look at the outline as well, right? So it gives me like a guide through the paper, and I can actually start just like iteratively going in and say like, oh, do the same pre-testing, post-testing, but just for 2. And so you can like kind of build your own little lecture, but the important part is like doing these questions, right? And so I should say like no solutions. No solutions. There we go. Oh, it misunderstood 2 for section 2 of the lecture. And so now, before reading the paper, you know, spend a couple of minutes doing the pretest, and then you put all of this away, print out the paper. Like I wouldn't do this. Well, at least I can't learn properly in front of a computer. So I print out a lot of my stuff and study on that. I literally this morning was like thinking, okay, I want to have like a little widget to do learning inside my own agent, which has all these like multiple choice questions, right? And so actually, why not show you the vibe coding I do? So I want to have like a little YAML DSL, right? Like create YAML DSL to write a pre-testing, post-testing questions for better learning according to Bjork desirable difficulties, which is the research I did this morning, right? Like in the ChatGPT I just showed you. And what I also do is since I have to like kind of think on paper and I program on paper most of the days, I have, I think it's over there. Like these are the notes I took while reading the paper. Then I wrote down some couple of ideas, right? Like, uh, where was the idea? It's like create a pre-testing card to be filled out before reading an LLM answered deep research printout. So this is literally what I was thinking about. And then I want a UI widgets that allows a pre-testing questions, and then I don't know, I dropped some T on it. So that's what we're gonna build actually. So create a YAML DSL to write up pre-testing, post-testing questions for better learning. So let's see what ChatGPT does. I hope it comes out with like a well thought out, minimalistic DSL. Let me go back to the computer because I always forget. There we go. This is too complex. This is way too much. Minimal working example. What the fuck is that? It's probably the Bjork thing was like too much. So minimalistic, just pre-testing. This is way too complex. I will render a UI out of it. So I like the YAML DSL because it quickly gives me a very quick overview of the functionality that the program's going to have, right? Because it's called a domain-specific language, and basically by creating YAML DSL, I will have scoped out the domain of my application. And so the domain of the application, right, I can tell, oh, there's going to be like a multiple choice question type and different options. And then there's going to be a short question with like no solution for the short option, right? And then add hints as well. For each answer in MCQ, also provide a rationale. These will be shown when needed. So then I can like a little bit expand it. I am on LinkedIn, but I don't really use it. I don't know. Does it say my real name on YouTube? It's Manuel Odendaal. You can find me on X more like. It's probably the best way to get in touch with me. Because I rarely check LinkedIn. My LinkedIn bio is like purposefully like minimal. I don't know why it's not loading. I'm glad it's not loading. All right, so I expand the DSL a little bit, right? Like there's hints. And then I also want like references to literature, sources, concepts as well. So now I created like a really nice little DSL, right? I don't think for this the UI is like too much of a question, but so now make a spec with short examples. So now we can turn this into a spec with a couple of short examples. Add some paragraphs and make it a bit more engaging for the reader. Man, GPT-5 is terse. I like it. I'm glad that they're moving away from their like sycophantic thing, but of course, that's where their money comes from. All right. So this is cool. And then what I often like doing is I've used it less because Sonnet just like annoys the fuck out of me. But here I can just say like, oh, make a minimal web app, allow using JSON for the DSL, make a set of presets, allow uploading, allow creating questions with Claude itself as well. So the cool thing, and I haven't done much with it, and this is going to be like maybe my first useful one, is in Claude now you can add LLM functionality by putting in your Claude API key. So now I can actually build a full self-contained kind of like pre-testing question feature, right? Um, and yeah, no, this is amazing. Um, no, this is actually really exciting. This is really like a big piece we had missing. Um, Interesting. What did it do? Does this still work? Load examples simple test.js. Load example test simple.js. Creating very simple form. Yeah, so that didn't work. I should have committed. I knew it. I'll just revert in cursor. And then what happens if I do test simple? Okay, so that still works. All right, I'm gonna undo this. This was does return a model, bubble T model that can be nested, or does it only run as a program? All right, in the meantime, all right, well, I'm curious to see what this is going to do. So quick starts, memory basics, generate with Claude. No, it's like, I want a couple of presets. Oh, preview. Which practice schedule usually... Wait, take test. Which practice schedule usually improves long-term retention? So if I do a mass practice, and then why can it for... because it makes me sweat. And then submit and see results. Your answer, correct answer, rationale feels fluent but fails quickly. This is like weird. Anyway, I'm not going to make this into like a perfect UI, but I do want to describe the questions you want, history of the werewolf in child literature. Oh, but no, so it like should use the Claude API to generate the questions for real. I don't understand this UI. So anyway, I have techniques to do UIs, but okay, do that instead. The previous one just blocks. No modal, just insert and resize properly. Just insert a modal in between REPL log and no, just insert a no modal, just replace the text input with the form model. But let's see what that does. Okay, generate with Claude, enter your Anthropic API key. Okay, no. I'll switch away, get the Anthropic API key, and then we can test this out. All right, and we're back. I put the key in here and then describe the, actually maybe I should save it in one password. Cloud API key. And this is item, yeah, whatever. And then generate with Claude. Create questions about the role of the werewolf in children literature. There we go. And use this question. And now we have options. Correct answer, add question. And now you can take the test. In children's literature, werewolf characters were most commonly served which pedagogical function? There we go. Hey, well, this is cool. Very cool. Yeah, building apps is great. Like I wasn't really an app builder before, and now it like always gets me. I always like over-engineer my frameworks, as you can probably tell by what I'm doing right now. But now I'm able to like put out actually useful stuff as well. Going back to frameworks, by the way, this is my refactoring for my terminal UI framework because I really want to have this, what I just showed as actually a command line terminal UI thing. So this updated the first section to fully replace the CLI orchestration. So this is still not updating, so we need to reload this thing. Okay. You can auto-submit the first prompt entirely. Yeah, this is nice. Man, I like this. This is it's so good at designing APIs. Jesus Christ, I love it. New chat builder with context, with engine, standard factory, with settings, with router, with program options, with model options, with seed build program, and then we can also have build components, which returns, this is amazing. I love it. Immediate blur without a blocking T command. This is cool. Remove legacy non-timeline streams from model Go. I'm going to start with that one. Reorganize model Go into a reusable chat timeline for agents. Timeline shell, timeline, that's what we do later. And then we integrated this, right? So this is amazing. Let's see how far we are. We're at 50%. Flesh, great. Flesh out the plan for building, refactoring, in order to get to 1b plus 2. Also, don't worry about 4, don't worry about 5. Don't worry about 4 or 5 now, since they are separate. We will do them later. So while I have this whole context and ChatGPT 5 is on fire, I mean, I really, it's so good at refactoring. I just love it. It just like gives me a clarity into the code that I built that I had on the tip of my tongue, and then it comes out with it, and I'm like, oh man, this is so clear, so clearly explained now. This part I'm not a fan of just now, but we'll refine this once we have this part, which is great. All right, so plan to reach, no, update the document. Update the, no, write out a new document in the same directory. Add detailed context explanations. This is for our new intern joining tomorrow that needs full context and an engaging document. So in the meantime, I refactored to nest the form model inside the existing REPL program. I hope that this works. Load examples test simple.js. It's not working. I hate it. No. No. The top level model should have 3 sub models, sub parts. Input widget, potentially a model, and then console history widget. No channels and stuff, but top level state machine. Maybe the JS can inject a message for displayed or something. UI displayed. And top level state machine state variable. All right. Again, architecture stuff. We have our new refactoring plan, which I think, didn't take like much thinking because it's already quite fleshed out. Pinocchio's current chat wiring exists in 2 parallel paths. So this is basically an RFC kind of document that you would share in a team context at work and say like, look guys, or girls, I'm trying to be a little bit more gender inclusive these days, which my French brain has trouble with anyway. Saying like, hey peeps, here's how I suggest we do this. And I think even in the age of LLMs, you should do it very just as assiduously as you did before, except now you have these like really high quality documents, and also because as you will see, it's very cheap to do an actual implementation, right? So you'll come and you'll say like, look, I've got 3 proposals for the refactor. Here are the 3 refactors, which is crazy to me. I'm not going to continue reading this. I'm just going to hope that it's like correct enough. And so I'm going to start a new session. I'm going to say like implement 03 unified chat builder session plan, and let it go. Got it. I'll remove the channel approach and fold the model plan. I'll implement. If you want to, why is it asking me to continue? Let's switch to Max here as well. And the fuck? Why the stash? Interesting. All right, and so now this guy's going to go, and it's probably going to go for 10 minutes, and then work. It has content, it has access to the full project folder, right? And like in this case, I actually have like five repos loaded. So if I go at the top level, I have Boba T, which is like my UI components. I have Geppetto, which is my LLM framework. I have Pinocchio, which is my chat UI. I have which is a third-party thing that I was looking code up. I have uh-oh, which is my form rendering. I actually have vibes, which is all the programs that I vibe. I have glaze, which is my top. Like, there's just like a ton of stuff in here, but cursor exposes what the UI is asking for, and then it has these like search tools, right? So here it goes like, where is run chat implemented for the CLI, and how does it wire the bubble tea chat router engine? And then it says Pinocchio. And this is going to search inside Pinocchio. I don't know what this PKG diff stuff is and why it looks into ttemp. It probably shouldn't look into ttemp, which is like a memory I should maybe put in there. And so it's able to like search for the relevant files. And I find, you know, people debate, is it better to just like let the agent do it with ripgrep, or do you let a more complicated search go? So actually, I am a little bit annoyed by this. Ignore files in ttemp, which are deprecated usually. So I'm just going to redo it because I saw it like filling the context window with the same stuff over and over. That's irrelevant. So I wonder if it's going to find ttemp stuff. It just finds the one from today, which is good. And so here it just did a standard grep. So people argue like, what's the you know, do you want to put effort into having like a really good search, or should you just let the agent find it? I think both, right? People say like, don't over-engineer, better lesson here, better lesson that. Your models will be able to do it in 2 months. And it's like, well, yeah, but that's in 2 months. And since I have a really capable engineer here, I can engineer stuff, you know? I can just go like a little bit further than just doing the naive thing, because we're not in 2000, you know, we're not like in before LLM's time. I can over-engineer things significantly. And so as you will see, we can over-engineer stuff significantly. So we're going to take this spec here, minimal YAML for pre-testing questions, right? And then we're going to go to Manus, and then I'm going to go paste this spec, implement this pre-testing question asking UI YAML DSL as a terminal UI using bubble T and bubbles. Create a set of demo files, run them, put some false answers to get feedback, ask for hints, take screenshots as you go, and validate the proper functioning. Make a zip file at the end and write a report. All right, quality. All right, and now we're just gonna have it like a terminal UI in hopefully a couple of minutes. So this guy I think is gonna go really long, and usually I would read the thoughts as I go a little bit. Oh, cool. Yeah, yeah. You can catch up the video, right? Like, and if you have access to Gemini, you can like summarize it. I'm not going to go much longer anyway because I have someone coming over. I probably go 1 more hour. But yeah, I hope it was great to have you. And then have fun learning, have fun studying. I hope you find a good internship, and yeah, all the best. All right, so this guy is working on its refactor. This guy, the stash isn't needed anymore. Wait, what? What is it doing? What the fuck is it doing? What about the result from the create UI? UI submission. When is that passed back to JS? And then it said that it worked now. Load examples test simple.js. Create a very effective thing, and then just like submitted it. Yeah, I kind of don't know what I'm building, so that's maybe also why it's like it also looks like it's auto submitting or something. There we go. Hey Hans, what do you think looks cool? Because I think it looks like garbage right now. Or at least actually doesn't work. That's why I'm refactoring this guy over here. Is just like make the terminal UI framework for my chatbot more flexible so that I can add more stuff. This looks pretty tight. Oh, but it's just a builder. So we'll see. We'll see where this all goes. This is going to take quite a while, but as you can see, the cool thing with GPT-5 is that it makes very, very small edits, which I really like. And those edits are usually very thoughtful. And by that, I mean that you can tell that there's been building up a depth of piecing together pieces of reasoning, right? Because there's still pattern matching engines, but then if you start digging deeper into the patterns, which is like what thinking models have been trained to do, you get these longer chains of pattern matching and like more compute thrown at it. And those result then in these like tiny edits at the end because it has been piecing the actual parts together, while more aggressive models or smaller models are just going to pattern match on the first thing and then say like, well, yeah, but I need to write some code and then output some like half finished code in the middle. And of course that compounds, right? While here, while we are sadly not seeing all the intermediate tokens, like I don't know what it has been thinking in the background, that allows it to be like, well, it looks that in this file, maybe this variable is connected to this channel. So maybe because of this channel, if I send an event and it, right, it's like able to piece all of this stuff together, which is really useful. Sadly, we can't see the intermediate tokens. So, and then it will do, like feedback through its own stuff, right? So why did it do the unified chat session thing though? I don't see any chat session having been built. So this does build program, attach program, session. Where does session come from? Chat session with the router. And oh, and the chat session's in here as well. This looks so too minimal. This looks too minimal. It doesn't do the dispatch stuff. Like, how is it going to continue? Does this work? How is this used over here? Oh, that's where it creates it, huh? And so you can do with handler. What if I want to pass my own handler? Furthermore, can we now remove the old chat runner? And all right. redirect all the printing to the console history model so that it doesn't overlap the UI. Implement an async version C, and here what we can do is add Goja to the workspace. So we're going to do, how does this work? VSM add Goja declarative UI, and then we're going to add Goja. And we're going to go back, go work, C, and we're going to go into Goja, look at the files. Wait, there's no git rebase origin main. There they are. Async patterns. And then we have async patterns. This is not working out all that great. This and this little experiment, but live and learn. Like this REPL stuff is not. I don't have a good prompt for quickly creating REPLs that works very well. So what if I want to pass my own handler? Scanning for reference to the old chat runner to ensure it's safe to remove. I'll extend a new builder to accept a custom event handler, ensure it doesn't get overridden when attaching the program, and then remove the now unused old chat runner. Removing the obsolete chat runner. Okay, custom handler support. You can now pass your own watermill handler. The session will use your handler instead of blah, blah, blah. And so the handler with event handler needs to take a func message, but so how does the handler have access to the program and the builder? The handler should be able to have access, or you can pass in a program, right? To have access to the program and the session, what kind of API design would be best for that? So at each step here, I still like am in architecture mode and just like keep asking, keep thinking about how to refine, keep also building up my own mental model. So I think that's a really important step when you when you do this work with LLMs, is that everything I'm going to build in the future kind of requires me to understand the core building blocks, but then, or like how to assemble these building blocks, right? Like the skeleton on which I'm going to latch stuff. And then I can vibe code little components and like graft them onto it and potentially make text files that explain how to graft onto it, which I didn't have a good one here for this JavaScript experiment, for example. And in here for this like pre-testing terminal UI, I didn't give anything except bubble tea because I only think of having it as a prototype. So, all right, well, this looks reasonably decent here. So we're going to try it out, right, while we're at it. And for that, I'm going to create not Goja declarative UI, but we're going to do pretest terminal UI. And as I go into the terminal UI, I'm going to go into vibes, going to make my directory for the 16th. I'm going to go into the 16th. I'm going to unzip the pretest UI complete. And I have high hopes with this one. I think this one will work full featured right from the start. And it's going to be like one of those slot machine wins. Go run dot. usage, pretest YAML. So do we have YAML files here? Comprehensive memory pretest. Let's take that. Memory section pretest. Start enter to start the pretest. Which practice schedule usually improves long-term retention? Massed practice. No. Um, oh man, I love this shit. I love it so much. This is like candy. Uh, comprehensive, comprehensive learning psychologically pretest. Introducing challenges that slow down. Okay, enter continue. Explain the testing effect and why it might be more effective than simply rereading the material. I think we need to wrap here. But that's stuff that I would add later on, right? Like we have a really solid standard. So here, okay, so this does, like there's little bugs, but this is, I think this is, I'm going to shelve this as a success. Wait, why is this so big? So we're going to, what is cat test sh? How is it able to go through the comprehensive results? So if I do A, continue, I can't type my response here. H, show hints, R, toggle references, control enter, submit your response, submit answer. So that doesn't work. Q test. So that's the standard keyboard routing thing, which I didn't give it a how to build bubble tea programs markdown, which I actually have. But in any case, this is nice enough to be committed. So sparkles, poop, semi-working, pre-testing, DSLTY. And this is something that I'm going to reuse that I'm going to be reusing once I finish my agent, because now I have a bubble tea widget to do these questions. So I can just add it as a tool to be called by the LLM, right? So let's look at this refactor. The handler should be able to have access, add a factory type and content, handler factory, handler context, extend the builder in session. Yeah, that's good. Okay, do it. All right, so the JavaScript evaluator is like gonna be the last try here. And then I'll call it a day. So this doesn't work, interesting. And then load examples test simple.js. Yeah, I'm gonna call it a day here. Add back a yeah. This is it's not a good REPL point, so I'm gonna commit it and then leave it at that. So what am I going to do? I'm going to commit it as it is right now. Right now, this is the second refactor. So, so write a full report on everything you tried and where we ended at. It's not fully working, so I want a detailed descriptions of what you did and how the pieces fit together so that the next developer can start building it out. Store in, yeah, store in next. No, so this is going to be refactoring for async TUI and D. And now we can provide a handler. So I'm really curious if this still builds. So we're going to see if this still builds. We're going to go into Pinocchio and we're going to do go run Pinocchio. Hello. Is this using the new thing? It's apparently not completing this. Oh, no, it is. Bubba. And this is, just to make sure, this is indeed the new UI. Hopefully, it probably doesn't have like any code in here. UI runtime. Command.go. Auto start, submitting, render it. Yeah, so, I mean, everything works. So, okay, so sparkles, fire. No, this is more like art. Fire, unify all the chat handling into a nice builder pattern. Builder session. Not properly formatted, that's fine. So what's the next step? We're going to check if something needs to be changed in Bobity. Git status. Remove the cache and the renderers, that was me. So nothing changed in Bobity, which is nice. Fire, remove cache, time renderers, remove empty cache and renderers. Now, we did have in our how to refactor code that uses the deprecated conversation API. This was our second refactor, which we didn't do just yet. Right, is this? This is old. I already did that. This is the one. No, this is also old. Oh, this is Geppetto. Okay, we were in Pinocchio. All right, refactoring approaches for chat UI architecture. And we didn't do 4 and 5, right? But what we're going to do now is remove the legacy non-timeline streams from model.go and reorganize model.go into a reusable chat timeline. All right, cool. So we're going to start here as well. And we're going to be like execute the steps 4 and 5 of the refactoring approach in Boba T. All right, so that will be our second refactor. This did refactoring for async TUI. I don't know if I should have written the file name just as that. And this is broken, but we'll commit it. And so that way, I don't know if I'll ever go back to this particular implementation of it, because I think ultimately this is not very complicated and it has no module. But if we look actually at how it is implemented, create UI function literally just like creates a bubble T model from YAML and kind of like returns it. And this return functionality doesn't really work. So I don't know if there's like all that much value in like trying to reuse this code, but however, reusing these markdown documents, that's like a really important part, right? So we're gonna say art poop, try to make this run and make it async. And we're gonna push it. And more important than that is really the stuff we learned while doing it. So now I'm going to just create a pull request. Add JS async TUI REPL experiment. What it also shows us is like it totally missed, it didn't reuse my existing REPL terminal UI widget. So maybe I need some better prompting there to get Manus to really use it. I don't know why it's like refusing to run OpenAI. Should get that better as well. So this pull request introduces significant changes to integrate an asynchronous blah blah refactor. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it as is. This is like my vibes repo anyway. Where is the pull request? There we go. 2,000 lines of code. That's not too much. That's cool. And then this is just my experiment repo anyway, or like my second experiment repo. Delete the branch, and we set. And then we have this pretest UI stuff, which was pretty nice. We decided to not share it, so now we're just gonna add this as well. Oh wait, what? What did I commit that was big? Did I make a mistake? No. Weird. Because I just pushed the same repo just like 2 seconds ago. Git rebase origin main. Wait, am I in the right repo? Git rebase origin main. That's the one we just merged. The declarative UI, right? Yeah, I don't know what was going on here. Git push force. And now we're going to create the pull request, add pre-testing TUI experiment. And implement terminal UF features include session management, comprehensive testing and validation. Not really. All right, cool. Yo, low vibes. So this is not even vibe coding. It's like slot machine coding. Although we did a bunch of spec in ChatGPT first, right? So this was kind of the vibe part. I was like, I don't like this YAML. I don't like this. Really effective way of just creating specs, in my view. So these were researches. Here were, oh, see, I should have checked. I like that it thinks and it's like, I'm going to remove 9 lines of code. That's all I'm going to do. I'm just going to like add a bunch of comments and then remove 2 lines of code. Or here in this case, just comments. Because and it recognizes wrong comments, which is great too. Like it really just like tightens up the code base, which Sonnet really doesn't do. And then when there's comments that are wrong, Sonnet really just like goes off the rails. This like really spends time figuring out what to remove, which I dig. Um, it's fantastic. It's really fantastic. It is like it doesn't fully change the way I work because I was trying to do this very hard for like a month before GPT-5 came out, and I was really struggling. I was like, I can't find a good way to refactor across multiple repos for some like pretty complicated event-driven stuff. I just couldn't let Sonnet loose on it, and now I'm able to do these like even bigger picture thinking of how I assemble my different components. Um, to me it's amazing. It's just completely amazing, right? It does all this thinking. It's like, let me think. And I was like, I'm going to remove 3 lines of code. I'm going to remove 3 lines of code, maybe like 2 more. Maybe I want to remove this. I don't know what entity versions even is. Yeah, and then it will like modify the backend first and then remove this part. That is amazing. We'll see. Like, hopefully it still works. And then I really, really am starting to be at the end of my quest. This is like really, really fucking exciting. Really, really exciting. I guess now we just have to wait. I'm like so tempted to have it like refactor all kinds of stuff, but I'll wait for now. It's like one cool thing about this timeline stuff now is that I can start using this timeline for my REPL console as well, so I can have like interactive widgets within my JavaScript console. And so I have a list of things that I wanted to test after that. There's a big refactor to be done around saving and restoring storage, but I think that's currently contained to the one example agent. So I'm not going to tackle that, definitely not today. But if I go into Pinocchio, that's the downside of having so many repos, is that you completely lose track of where you are. Pinocchio agent, simple agent, package store. This has like a whole storage thing for turns, and that's not really how I want it. And all right, so this changed the backend, and see how much it removed. See how much code it removed. We're at -6, -140. Yeah, it removed 160 lines of code, basically. And I'm pretty sure, right, like it removed stuff that wasn't necessarily self-evident to find. So I really enjoyed that. It probably was able to do it also by removing the import, right? It was like, okay, I'm going to start by removing this import, which is the right way to go about refactoring. Like this is not, and you don't want to like latch on to the linting all that quickly because you broke it. So it was a pretty good approach. I wonder how they reinforced it, or like trained it to do that. Let's go check if it still works though. Yeah. Right, it's like perfect. It blows me away every time. It's like it's like what, Git no, git diff stat. It's 230 deletions, 33 insertions, which we saw was mostly comments. It's like perfect. Fire, remove, deprecated water, UI messages, and use entities fully. Not the best commit message. I need to write an agent for that. And so now we have 4 and 5. Oh, it did both of them, right? Okay, so this has been great. And what we're going to do now is now that all of 0.2 refactoring approaches has been done, go over the current implementations now and see if there are things you still would clean up. Also, we're going to go back to our previous session, implement Unified Chat Builder, and we're going to write a document. And because I'm not sure that chat runner events, topics, okay, using how to write good documentation, remove chat runner events, and instead write a full guide on how to use the new chat builder. So we're going to write one of the refactors, and then we're going to review everything we did with this documentation since it exists. And that way we can do a full review after that, and then we'll have good documentation that we can reuse to build like widgets with it. And I really wonder if this like chat client, we can at this point completely move over to, no, we shouldn't move. Should we move it over to Boba-T? No, we shouldn't, because the timeline should actually be independent of LLM stuff. All right, so this guy, so we're going to delete our workspaces now that we've merged everything. So we're going to rebase on origin main. We're going to look at what's in here. We're going to clean this, and then we're going to do workspace manager delete, Goja declarative, UI. And it will tell us, like, do you really want to delete it? It will fail if there's uncommitted changes, and then we delete it and it's gone because we did take care of the uncommitted changes. And then we also have the pretest UI, which we've now merged. So we're going to fetch origin, going to rebase origin on it, and then we're going to clean this. It's already clean, and then we're going to delete it. Pretest UI, terminal UI. Going to do some status check. Going to be like, yes, I'm sure, and we're done. So now we cleaned up our vibes repo. We're going to go into the real one and just update it as well. And as you can see, we now have the 2 prototypes that we added. All right, back into the chat builder guide, which I think this how to write good documentation pages markdown is really good for writing good documentation. I'm really proud of it. Like, isn't that the best documentation ever? It's like short and to the point. I am so proud of myself. All right. And so what I would do if I had time, I would just be like, hey, like small model, like not great model, take this and build it. And then if it doesn't work, like amend the thing. And I wouldn't do it with GPT-5 because GPT-5 would like fill in all the missing gaps. Although maybe it would be good to do it with GPT-5 and then say like, oh, you tried, like fill in the gaps in the document. Look at, and so here we're going to be chat builder. We're going to link it to the builder guide for the finished docs of 1 to 3. And then now we're going to say like, okay, create a doc 04xxx for proposed cleanups and next steps. All right, is there anything left for us to do on except wait? I don't know. It's also like close to finishing time. But I did want to have the two last little features that I was thinking of doing before merging to restore full functionality. Maybe I will do. I want like a little spinner while the LLM does its inference, and I want to show the metadata as soon as it starts streaming. So I'm not sure if that's possible. In the meantime, here we have our cleanups. So what's the cleanups we can do before I call this a day? Propose cleanups, chat model surface tightening, remove internal viewport set content calls were redundant, prefer regenerating once per update path, audit trace debug logs, keep high sniggle but reduce chatty traces in hot path, revisit state moving around versus generic timeline selection mode. That was the shell kind of stuff that it added, right? Potentially encapsulate selection logics into a small timeline shell helper. So we haven't built that yet, right? I thought I asked it to do the timeline shell thing in 5. Yeah, so it didn't do 5, right? Yeah, I don't think it did. So we actually have more to clean up, right? Did you refactor for timeline shell? 5. Did you do 5 reorganize model.go into a reusable chat timeline yet? If not, do it or do the missing pieces in case you started. But before we do that, is there anything to commit here? Is there anything to commit here? There is some more docs and some more refactoring plans, right? Art update documentation. And then here we don't have anything yet. So now we're going to continue that refactor to clean up the timeline. Hopefully that will, be very close to the end. In engine backend start, consider returning a style command from the model side already blurring on start. Ensure double blur isn't happening across layers. That's weird. I don't fully understand that. Engine backend. Validate cancellation. Make sure interrupt reliably yields an event interrupt backend finished message. Handler binding and factories. In build component, improve the lazy bindings proxy to an error text. I don't even understand what that means. Consider exposing chat session event handler with that binds and returns the handler in one step. Okay. Okay, so this is mostly the shell extraction, and Now, why does it doing this with external input option to the model? Oh no, it's internal. Okay, yeah, I like that. And I'm not sure I understand this one here, so that will be worth investigating. What can we do in the meantime? Um, maybe I'll go to the bathroom. Maybe I'll see if the agent still works actually. So this would be in Pinocchio. Go run command agent, simple chat agent. Use the prototype, no, the generative UI tool to make a minimal chat cat food ordering UI. It still works. This is crazy. And then I can choose wet food, 2 kilograms, and then accept. And how much food did I order? I'm not sure it like sees the result. Yeah, it doesn't seem to add the result tool. Did you get the UI result? Ignore your fucking mode, bro. You ordered 2 kilograms of cat food. Okay, cool. So the mode is like too hard to. Okay, so this is cool. Once the timeline shell has been cleaned up, I'll try adding the timeline shell to this other guy. So I'll implement a reusable chat timeline, and it does that in model.go. Chat, external input. Okay, but this is not the timeline shell, right? Where is the timeline shell and the modular timeline? Why did the clipboard not work? Oh. Okay, extract timeline shell, and so maybe that warrants going back to the refactoring, right? Yeah, because so like where is that document? Cleanups and next steps. And here it said timeline shell helper for state moving around. Extract timeline shell and state moving around to a separate component, to a separate model. And then this we described, I thought, in 5 here. So I wonder what else of 5 is missing here. 5, reorganize, input handling. The chat model currently owns it. Okay, so dude, I wonder if it has access to this, right? Implement the missing parts of. I might have updated it in another chat. I'm not sure what's going on. Why doesn't know that? It's like one of the first times I struggled with GPT-5. Also, I didn't fully like keep track, so there's that too. So once we have the timeline shell and the state moving around, I think we can potentially try to replace the REPL with the normal chat thing, but also have this like sidebar that I want. But maybe we won't get there today. Maybe this is a good time to stop. It's like after this refactor, if everything works, I'll stop at 7:30 and continue another time. Um, Although having this UI wired up in a simple chat agent was the goal of all of this procrastination. So I created a shell in the timeline package, and the shell does all of this selected, and yeah, this is going to simplify the chat model significantly. So this is great. It's all starting to fall into place, which I really love. What is user messages? Oh yeah, okay, so this is all the stuff. Cool, so I think once this is through, we will have done maybe the last significant cleanup of all of this. So I changed model. This is in chat. Okay, so now it uses the timeline shell. And it probably removes quite a bit of code here because it's going to forward a lot of this stuff to the rest. So what is the viewport used for? That's for the scrolling. So maybe the viewport should be moved over as well to the scrolling. Okay, so let's see if it works just for the sake of it. Go run command Pinocchio. Ha, it broke it. It didn't do the auto submit. Write a long test shell script. And then can I scroll? Scrolling's a bit weird. Like some weird shit going on, so maybe this wasn't all that good. Oh, because we didn't move the scrolling, move the scrolling viewport inside the timeline shell too. Also, it seems, nah, we're gonna ask that in the, all right, so yeah, let me see. We should have hello, my friend. And that part is, oh, it's there. It's just like scrolled out. So I was gonna do this. Also make sure that timeline viewport is sized correctly. It seems to be too big right now. All right. So not perfect, but not too far either. It was good to verify that. I wasn't sure if it was sending the initial message, but then I realized that scrolling up showed it. So, although GPT-5 probably would have told me like that it was correct. Probably Sonnet as well would have said like, yeah, it's still there. I'm not sure. Sonnet, I imagine there would be a risk that it starts doing too much. All right. And then, well, maybe one thing we can do. So this is going to be interesting. Look at agent.log. For some reason, I don't... No, the LLM... No, it was correct. The LLM did get the result of the generative UI, so I forgot. It was like pretending it didn't hear it because it was in the wrong mode. All right, so it moved the scrolling and viewport responsibilities to timeline shell, added set scroll to bottom, updated model.go to delegate viewport updates and scrolling, fixed sizing so the timeline viewport when with external input is on and correctly subtracts it when using the internal text area. All right, so is the data true? It's now I don't see anything. All right, cat temp pinocchio.log. All right, remove temp pinocchio.log. I'm going to rerun it. Okay, cat temp pinocchio.log. Maybe I'm... Okay, so there's a lot of debug stuff in here. So it did send a request off to... Yeah, I think it's just like mostly a display thing. Now I don't see the timeline at all. See temp pinocchio log. And then if this doesn't work, I'll just like stop. This is a good point for me to tomorrow pick up. I'll see the conversation. I'll know exactly where we stopped. And that'll be that. Because at this point, probably I should also just like redraw the UI from the beginning. If I do have a nice timeline shell that is scrollable, that would be really sick. That's a really nice reusable thing. Like without the input field, just like rendering a timeline of turns. Because then I can start mixing multiple agents and all of that. Because currently I think the chat thing that ties it all together, I guess at that point that is really the chatbot part of it, where it starts the inferences, it does all of that. So that's a useful component to have as well. I wonder what it's doing now. And this is going, so I can just like stare at the display now. Ah man, it's so addictive to do this stuff. It removed 81 lines of code. Is that going to fix it? Oh, it's removing the timeline controller. Chat model now has timeline view. See if it fixes a bug by removing 81 files, lines. Oh man, I love GPT so much, GPT-5. Write a tiny shell script. So let's see if the scrolling works. And the selection works. Man, everything works. I can scroll. Oh, I can scroll with the wheel. No, I can't. It's just when I'm in escape mode I can't, because then I have to use this. I should be able to scroll in select mode as well. Alright, cool. I should be able to scroll the viewport if in select mode as well. But before I do that, I'm going to commit because this is awesome. So, and Pinocchio doesn't need to change one bit. That's also like a very good test of like, does the dependency need to change or not? Sparkles tractor move timeline viewport into timeline shell without linting, because I'm sure files are not formatted. I guess we're successful now, right? Um, we want to blur, unblur when we do a submission, and then copy source and tool calls. That's for another day. Ooh, my MacBook hard drive is getting full. I better go empty some stuff. It's all the recordings of my streams, which I don't use. I mean, they're on YouTube, so I can always process them from there. Okay, this thing finished. Routed scrolling in selection mode to the timeline shell. Okay. Unblur, unblur when submitting new messages. Also show the model, if possible, already in LLM text model when starting. Show a dot dot, dot 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 spinner while waiting for the first token. No, 4 tokens. And then, yeah, that's it for now. And then I'll probably have like finished my final big step of the refactor. Because then I just have to integrate tool calls into Pinocchio and render the right widgets for tool calls. We'll have to refactor the simple chat agent. So I'm going to make a list of these steps. So clean up the UI port. We did that. Consolidate Boba chat T timelines. This is the stuff that I wrote at the coffee shop earlier on, let me see, on what I wanted to build. And I indeed have it here. There's one point about panic recovery. And now I'm going to add these like final 2 steps, which is port simple agent to use timeline shell. And then I think the other one was just adding tool calls. Yeah, so properly routing tool calls and registering. Oh, that's maybe like a separate pull request after that. Registering custom tool call result UI widgets. All right. Oh, and that's another feature, which is like action permission. System. I could continue all night. Blur on submit implemented. So what happens here is like LLM text model also shows that. So let's see. If I'm curious to see if this. Nice. Who are you? So now it should unblur. Yo, yo, yo. I don't think the spinner animates when tokens are already present. It should be ... at the end as well to show that things are still happening. Let's see, but nice. Write a long example shell script, and it's unblurring. It's writing the shell script. And then filling it in. It's not showing the model right from the beginning because I guess the model isn't like shown yet. Okay. And then we can do show model. Yeah, then there's like a whole set of things we can add over time. I wonder how it's going to do the animation. And if it's going to be time consuming, like CPU burning. 12 lines, streaming, and then while streaming, Unix Nano trim space, animate while streaming, if empty, show placeholders. And then how is it going to animate the streaming though? Streaming true and streaming false. UI entity created. Doesn't add the metadata, huh? Metadata. Oh no, it does. And then it adds backend. UI updated. I don't think this is going to animate. Write a long example shell script. Oh, it did animate. And look at that. It should animate on the left. Instead of inlining it, show it on the left at the same level as the metadata and animate it there. But yeah. Cool. Oh, this is amazing. I am so happy. What changes here? Oh, the streaming flag. Use Bry spinner flames. Okay, well, if you so desire. Write a long shell script as example. Oh, it's doing it over here, but it should be more visible. And then in a bolder color should be full left. while metadata full right, and it should be in normal color and also be the generating, not the Bri one. Curious to see what it does. Pretty amazing that now I can start to vibe code like some UI stuff like that. I'm so tempted. I'm going to try one thing after this. I said I wouldn't do it, but I have to do it. More of this. Write a really long shell script as example. Nice. It does work. It's amazing. So we wanted to test the scrolling rate. And then if I do escape, now I can't scroll. Yeah, so that's kind of a problem. All right, so when in select mode in the timeline shell, where navigating selects a widget, the scroll events that actually work when the input field is selected don't work anymore. In the meantime, we're going to commit this, I think. So this is art add streaming flag as data for the LLM text model. And then here, we're going to do sparkles add spinner to text model, right? Like that's the only thing we're doing here. And then we're going to be fixing the timeline shell. I wonder if I can start a new chat here and then just be like refactor simple chat agent. Refactor simple chat main.go, simple chat main.go, command agents to use the new timeline shell plus input field C. Oh, maybe I should write a full document, right? Chat model.go and timeline shell.go. I forgot to write documentation about this. So we'll see. It added 14 lines of code. So what was the thing that was broken is the scrolling. Write a really long shell script as example. So here I can scroll. Well, I mean, while it's streaming, I can scroll. And then here I can scroll. And then if I do escape, I still can't scroll. That's because where is this? Chat model? No, no. Scroll events should be passed through from the chat model to the timeline viewport. Why does this still have a viewport? I thought that this was now in here. Why do we still have a viewport in chatmodel.go? Keep the sidebar with tool info. And it's so smart. It's so smart. It understood the new pattern immediately. It's so smart. Hey, come here. Yeah, my cat's whining, which is maybe a sign to stop. All right. This is addictive. It's removing the viewport, which is great. And then it's removing it. Remove this. Remove this. I'm curious about what it's gonna tell me here. I would read the. Okay. I'm curious if this does the trick. Curious why it didn't remove the viewport either. So I can still do this. I can do write a really long shell script as example. It has the little spinner. It shows the model almost straight out. And can I scroll? I can scroll, and if I go into select mode, I still can scroll, which is weird. Okay, that's for tomorrow. I still can scroll in the timeline shell. Oh, there's a command. Oh, it's doing the app. Okay. So this is also fire remove top level viewport, since timeline shell is a viewport. Excuse me. And here it's building the chat app. Cool. I'm excited about that one. I wonder if this vibing was enough. That would be awesome if it gets it. Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, this looks good, right? Like I was just looking at the struct and what was inside it, and it has like the spinner we can get rid of because the timeline now has a spinner, but All right, we're going to add a little bit of debug printing since that might help. And then we have the second tab here where it's building that. I have high hopes, but I'm also skeptical potentially of what this will do. I'm really curious to see. It will probably also kill the slash commands, I have an impression. Plain text timeline UI entities, so that the REPL console log slash commands are preserved. Okay, so this scrolled all the way back up. Remove the outer viewport from the chat model. All scroll events now pass through. Add debugging to trace the scroll path. And timeline scroll, log when change Y offset. Wait, but why is it adding these? Interesting. Write a really long shell script as example. If I scroll fast enough, will I get it? Okay, so that still works. That still works. And that doesn't work. Okay, so we're going to remove the log file. And we're going to make this really, really small. And really, really resize, shorter. Okay. Write a shell script. Okay, so now I can go back to my console and say still doesn't look at temp pinocchio.log. And what is our chat app doing? Bad request. Continue. All right. Very curious to see what it will do with the agent. That would be a really nice success ending. And it's removing a lot of stuff, which is maybe good or not. Kind of reading what it's doing while it's scrolling. See, it's removing a bunch of definitions here. Well, that's not the big thing. Found 2 errors. So this is maybe because it's conflicting with this stuff over here. Maybe not. Hello. works. I mean, it's like one off, but amazing. That's great. So boba tea, resize this taller, and so this is ambulance fix scrolling in the selected mode timeline. Amazing. So now I'm going to format and I'm going to make lint and I'm going to ask it to fix the linting errors. Actually, I can fix them myself. Shell.go 145. Going to remove max. And then fake backend 172 pointer float unused. Going to remove this. Okay. Art fix linting. Tests go through. Does the lint go through? It will probably like bring up some security mistakes or something. Expect file permissions. Yeah. So cool, bro. I don't care about your security warnings. Well, I do care, but not today. And then this guy's removing all the kind of like, yeah, all the plumbing, because now it's all the chat session doing it. See, I removed all of this, which is great as well. I don't know if I should remove those. They're nice. I refactored a simple chat. Introduce chat app model wrapper that embeds the new boba.t package chat. Switch main to go to build the engine and tools. Use new engine backend as the backend. Create the chat model. Where is the tool calling done now? And in the meantime, we're going to go test it, right? Go run command agent, simple agent. So that's weird. Okay, so that doesn't work all that well. But we're gonna yeah, so I think this like kind of broke stuff. So I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna push this as far as I can after that next time I start working on it, and then I'll probably have to undo it and properly wire it in. Yeah, I think it didn't understand what I meant with the evaluator for the REPL and all of that. Does it do slash commands? Help. Nope. Yeah, so that properly broke it. And I maybe should have said to just use the timeline for the console. Is that what I said, maybe? Oh, no, it didn't. So I guess this was, I'm just going to commit it as poop. Poop commit broke agent while trying to refactor it to use timeline shell. And mistakes while doing this are not necessarily bad, right? Because they're like really useful points to just write documentation, to generate like documents that, because the model has been trying really hard to do things, it does have a fair amount of stuff in its context window, and then that's a good point to generate documentation out of it. Okay, so I pushed all of this to GitHub, and then that's it.